Hi, I'm Scott O'Connor. I'm a fiction mentor. I'm the author of three novels, a book of stories, and a novella. And I teach creative writing in and around Los Angeles, where I live with my family. And I'm also a graduate of the Spalding MFA program. And I found the program to be transformative. It was a hugely positive experience for my writing and the way that I write and the way that I think about writing and being part of a community of writers. So I'm very happy to remain involved in the program as a mentor. My mentoring philosophy, I think, can be broken down into two phases: the first draft or early draft phase, and then the revision phase. And in both of these phases, I tend to ask a lot of questions. I found that that's most effective when working with writers, and that's most effective for myself as a writer. The first draft phase, or the early draft phase, I really see as your opportunity to create raw material. Um, Other artists, like, say, sculptors, when they begin a project, and this is going to be overly simplistic, so I apologize to any sculptors, but as an analogy, maybe it'll work. They start with a particular raw material. It might be clay, might be a type of metal or something, and then the process goes along as they mold it and shape it and sculpt it toward a particular artistic vision. Um, Writers don't have any raw material when we start. We start with a blank page. So we have to create all of that raw material. And for me, that's what a first draft is. And so most of the questions I ask writers with whom I'm working on a first draft are questions designed to help you generate more material and to go deeper into that material, whether those are questions about character, questions about setting, questions about motivation. I think much of what holds us back during a first draft or an early draft, some of the blocks we experience, those insecurities, those doubts, come from a misunderstanding of where we are in the process. We so often want to be at the end. We want to be at the point where this thing might be worth publishing. And it's not fair to hold raw material up to that standard in the same way a sculptor wouldn't hold a lump of clay up next to a finished sculpture. And so I think it's important to keep in mind and to be clear about where we are in the process. So I think about a first draft and an early draft much differently than I think about revision. Um, Once we get to revision, again, it's largely question based on my part. And my goal then is to help you find the heart of this raw material you've created. You might already have an idea of what that heart is, or it might be something that's developed over the course of that first or early draft. And so our job together is to find it. I often think of it as the magnet of the story or the novel or the essay. What is this? What is this thing at the center that draws you to it as a writer, and that will draw readers to it as well? So I'll ask a lot of questions designed to help you find and articulate what that magnet is at the center of the piece you're working on. Um, I don't know what it is. I don't know the answers to these questions, but I'm pretty sure that you do somewhere. And so the more we ask and the deeper we probe, I think you'll start to come up with those answers. And then, of course, answering questions isn't all that writing is about. Sometimes it's about asking better questions, or asking more challenging questions or more difficult questions. So we'll explore that as well. And then also in revision, there is some critical thinking. We are looking at a piece as it gets closer and closer to being finished. And I tend not to think of it so much about in regards to whether a piece works or doesn't work, because I think those can be pretty vague terms, and what works for me may not work for you, and vice versa. I tend to think of it more about whether components of a piece, scenes, chapters, paragraphs, sentences, whether they're drawn to that magnet and how strongly they're drawn to that magnet. Do they make up part of this artistic vision that's starting to become clear to you? That's really the criterion that I use to decide, or to discuss with you what needs to be revised, what needs to be cut entirely, or what works really well right now. So that's when I think something works, is that um, if it's part of this singular vision that you are developing. Um, so I'm excited to remain part of the Spalding MFA program, and I look forward to working with you on your projects.